the Lord, saying, O original enjoyer, Lord of the universe, O deliverer, as famous as a place of pilgrimage. All are purified simply by hearing your holy name, which is worthy to be chanted. Purport. Please hear. The history of delivering the leader of the elephants, whose leg was attacked in the river by the superior strength of a crocodile, is described in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Since the Lord is absolute knowledge, there is no difference between His holy name and the personality of Godhead. The leader of the elephants was much distressed when he was attacked by the crocodile. Although the elephant is always stronger than the crocodile, the latter is stronger than the elephant when it is in the water. And because the elephant was a great devotee of the Lord in his previous birth, he was able to chant the holy name of the Lord by dint of his past good deeds. Every living entity is always distressed in this material world because this place is such that at every step one has to meet with some kind of distress. But one who is supported by his past good deeds engages himself in the devotional service of the Lord, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7.16. Those who are supported by impious acts cannot be engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, even though they are distressed. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7.15. The personality of Godhead, Hari, appeared at once on the back of his eternal bearer Garuda and delivered the elephant. The elephant was conscious of his relation with the Supreme Lord. He addressed the Lord as Adi Purusha, or the original enjoyer. Both the Lord and the living beings are conscious and are therefore enjoyers. But the Lord is the original enjoyer because He is the creator of everything. In a family, both the father and his sons are undoubtedly enjoyers, but the father is the original enjoyer, and the sons are subsequent enjoyers. A pure devotee knows well that everything in the universe is the property of the Lord, and that a living entity can enjoy a thing as ordained by the Lord. A living being cannot even touch a thing which is not allotted to him. This idea of the original enjoyer is explained very nicely in the Ishopanishad. One who knows this difference between the Lord and himself never accepts anything without first offering it to the Lord. The elephant addressed the Lord as Akhila Lokanatha, or the Lord of the universe, who is therefore the Lord of the elephant also. The elephant, being a pure devotee of the Lord, specifically deserved to be saved from the attack of the crocodile, and because it is a promise of the Lord that his devotee would never be vanquished, it was quite befitting that the elephant called upon the Lord to protect him. And the merciful Lord also at once responded. The Lord is a protector of everyone, but He is the first protector of one who acknowledges the superiority of the Lord instead of being so falsely proud as to deny the superiority of the Lord or to claim to be equal to Him. He is superior. A supreme devotee of the Lord knows that this difference between the Lord and himself. Therefore, a pure devotee is given first preference because of his full dependence, whereas a person who denies the existence of the Lord and declares himself the Lord is called Asura, and as such he is given protection by the strength of limited power subject to the sanction of the Lord. Since the Lord is superior to everyone, His perfection is also superior. No one can imagine it. The elephant addressed the Lord as Tirtha Shravana, or as famous as the place of pilgrimage. People go to places of pilgrimage in order to be delivered from the reactions of unknown sinful acts. But one can be freed from all sinful reactions simply by remembering His holy name. The Lord is therefore as good as the holy places of pilgrimage. One can be freed from all sinful reactions after reaching a place of pilgrimage, but one can have the same benefit at home or any place simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord. For a pure devotee, there is no need to go to the holy place of pilgrimage. He can be delivered from all sinful acts simply by remembering the Lord in earnestness. A pure devotee of the Lord never commits any sinful acts, but because the whole world is full of sinful atmosphere, even a pure devotee may commit a sin unconsciously as a matter of course. One who commits sinful acts consciously cannot be worthy of being a devotee of the Lord. But a pure devotee who unconsciously does something sinful is certainly delivered by the Lord, because a pure devotee remembers the Lord always. The Lord's holy name is called Shravana Mangala. This means that one receives everything auspicious simply by hearing the holy name. In another place in Srimad Bhagavatam, His holy name is described as Punya Shravana Kirtana. It is a pious act simply to chant and hear all about the Lord. The Lord descends on this earth and acts like others in connection with activities of the world, just to create subject matters for hearing about Him. Otherwise, the Lord has nothing to do in this world, nor has He any obligation to do anything. He comes out of His own causeless mercy and acts as He desires. The Vedas and Puranas are full of descriptions of His different activities so that people in general may naturally be eager to hear and read something about His activities. Generally, however, the modern fictions and novels of the world occupy a greater part of the people's valuable time. Such literatures cannot do good to anyone. On the contrary, they agitate the young mind unnecessarily and increase the modes of passion and ignorance, leading to increasing bondage to the material conditions. The same aptitude for hearing and reading is better utilized in hearing and reading of the Lord's activities. This will give one all-round benefit. It is concluded, therefore, that the holy name of the Lord and topics in relation to Him are always worth hearing, and therefore He is called here in this verse Namadeya, or one whose holy name is worth chanting. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupamayam Dadati Swapadatnikam Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashati Dishatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Hare Krishna. Today we'll be discussing the most beautiful pastime of Gajendra, and we'll go through the importance of prayers in general, and then we'll specifically go through why Gajendra prayers are so special. For those who don't know the pastime of Gajendra, I'll quickly give a small recap. So there was once a very high and beautiful mountain called Trikuta. This mountain was 10,000 yojanas high, which in modern day terms is 80,000 miles. So in this valley of Trikuta, there was a nice garden which was made by Varuna, and this garden was called Rutman. And in this beautiful area, there was a lake. So once Gajendra, who was the king of all elephants, him along with his female elephants went there. So firstly, he went there, his first objective was to quench his thirst, because he was very thirsty. But after quenching, he decided to have a bath, and then also to engage in sense gratification as such by spraying water on his female companions. So in this process of them enjoying, they disturbed the inhabitants of the lake, and the king crocodile was in the water, and he was very powerful, and he immediately attacked the elephant's leg, and thus this started the huge battle between Gajendra and the elephant, Gajendra and the crocodile, sorry. So this battle lasted 1,000 years, and in Shastra it said that this fight, if it was on ground, that Gajendra would have easily won. But because this fight was in water, which was the comfort zone for the crocodile, so the crocodile, it was his strength. So Gajendra was getting weaker as the fight continued, and the crocodile was getting stronger. It is said that thus eventually Gajendra was in a state of helplessness, and seeing that there's no other way of escaping, he sought shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, and thus the prayers came about. So when it is said when Gajendra was fighting this crocodile that the demigods were watching, and His Grace Lal Govind Prabhuji gives a very good example. He says that the demigods were just watching. They didn't stop the fight or anything. So he gives the example of us in this Kali Yuga. When we see people fighting, you see that there's always a crowd around, and they're all just watching, just enjoying the fight. So it's like us these days, that even no one even has the courtesy to stop the fight, but some people actually join in by saying, "Oh, give him more, punch him for me as well," like stuff like that. So it shows us that when people are in trouble, we like to enjoy the show instead of helping, and that's what the demigods were doing at the time. So it is said that everyone in this material world is engaged in the struggle for existence. So everyone tries to save himself from danger. And when one is unable to save himself, if he is pious, he takes shelter of the supreme lotus feet of the Lord. So in Bhagavad Gita it is said, Chatur Vidha Bhajante Mam Jnana Sukritin Arjuna Artho Jigna Sur Artharthi Jnani Cha Bharatarshava. That there are 4 kinds of pious men. So namely, one who is in danger, one who is in need of money, one who is searching for the knowledge, and one who is inquisitive. So they begin to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in order to be saved or to advance. So the king of elephants, in this condition of danger, he decided to seek shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. And after a considerable thought, he intelligently arrived at the correct decision. So such a decision is not reached by a sinful person. It is said, therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, that one who is sukriti or pious can decide that in a dangerous or awkward condition, one should seek shelter of the Supreme Lord. So Gajendra, when he started offering these prayers to the Supreme Lord, it is said in Shastra that the demigods were asking Gajendra to offer prayers to them so that they could come and save Gajendra. And the main motive wasn't to stop the fight. Their main motive was that they wanted to be part of an eternal lila. They wanted to have their names in the future that I saved Gajendra. Or it was because Gajendra prayed to me that I saved Gajendra. Like, it always comes back to that I. So, but as we see in the Gajendra prayers, Gajendra says Namaha, which means he offers respectful obeisances, and Atma Pradipaya, which means a person who gives enlightenment to all living entities. So just by saying this, he cancels out all the demigods for saving him. So Namaha Atma Pradipaya, I offer my respectful obeisances to one who gives enlightenment to all living entities. And thus, this was a straight arrow, or not arrow, but a straight path that Krishna, not the demigods, no anyone else, Krishna. So in Bhagavatam, it is said that, when we read Bhagavatam, when we come to prayers, what most devotees do is they either skip because it's the same old, that Krishna is the Supreme Person, he's all opulent, same. Everyone gets, this is the conception when people are reading prayers, that it's the same thing over and over again. But the thing is, we need to understand the importance of these prayers. So I'll go over 5 things which describe the importance of why we should be reading prayers every day. So the first thing is that these prayers are faultless because they're an offering to the Lord. They have no... It is said that the composers of these prayers, they're self-realized and they're pure Vaishnavas. Thirdly, there is no rasabhas, which means there's no grammatical errors, there's no mistakes, everything's in proper sync, and a proper tattva siddhanta, which means that everything is perfect. So when we chant these prayers, it is said that the quality of the composer actually is embedded within us when we're chanting. So the qualities, the mood that is in the composer's heart, it actually appears. So when we see, for example, Shikshashtakam, so if we think of it like this, that we're not just reading it for the sake of reading the prayers, but rather by reading these prayers, we are developing the mood and the way through which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had said them, or had written them. That mood is developed within us. So as at the end of the Shikshashtakam, it says, Prabhura Shikshashtaka sloke ye pade sune, Krishna prema bhakti tara bade dine dine. Which means anyone who recites or hears these verses by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his ecstatic love and devotion for Krishna increases day by day. So later we'll discuss the importance of why Gajendra's prayers are more important than other prayers to sing. So if anyone, the fifth one out of the five importance is that when we chant these prayers, it is said that we remind Krishna of the pure devotees. It's not that Krishna has forgotten these pure devotees, but it's rather that we become a medium between Krishna and the devotee, and thus we are blessed through this process. So if we are singing Gajendra's prayers, we are reminding Krishna of Gajendra, and thus Krishna is happy and he blesses us as a medium of singing the prayers. So, like I said, Bhagavatam is full of prayers, and we always we either skip them or we try not to read them because they are all the same concept, I guess. So, like we have all these prayers. So, Canto 1, Chapter 8, the Kunti prayers. Chapter 9, Canto 1, Bhishma Stuti. Canto 2, Chapter 9 is Chaturshloki, and then Canto 3, 31 is prayers of the unborn child. Then we have prayers of Dhruva in Canto 4. Canto 6, the prayers of Vritasur. Canto 7, Prahlad Maharaj. Canto 8, which is Gajendra. Canto 10, Chapter 2, which is the prayers of the demigods to the womb of Devaki. Canto 10, again, Brahma Stuti, Gopi Git. So there's so many prayers basically in every canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And we sometimes think that, I'll take an example, let's say Gopi Git. So in one of the verses, the first one is, like I discussed before, that all these prayers, they have perfect, there's no grammatical mistakes or anything. So when we think about prayers like, let's say Gopi Git, the first word of the verse, it ends with Ati. So it's Jayati, and then there's Shrayata, and then there's Dayata, and then there's Tvayi. And the second word is Dikkam, Indriya, Driyatam, Drishtavasyas. So we think about it, it's not like the gopis at that time, they had a meeting that when we sing these verses, we're going to have this, and it's going to be perfect. The thing is, when they were, all of them, it can't be that without discussing that they all had the same realization at the same time with the same words, with the perfect grammatical everything. But the fact is that because they were talking about Krishna from the heart, everything it was made perfect. So, as I said, I've mentioned that just to imagine that every time we speak these prayers, we are developing the mood of the composer. So just imagine that, like all the great devotees that have sung these prayers, we have Bhishma Pitama, we have Kunti Maharani, we have the gopis, we have Dhruv Maharaj, all these beautiful, imagine gaining the mood of all these great devotees while singing these prayers every time we sing them. So in Bhagavatam we have this very famous verse, I think everyone knows, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padsevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakhyam Atmanivedanam. So in this verse, the first word in this verse is Shravanam. But the fact is that when we're listening, every devotee attempts to listen to Bhagavad Gita, but the fact is that we are attempting to do something which is not in our material nature. So whenever we listen to Katha, it's hard to concentrate. So thus we see like a lot of Maharajas, they make a lot of funny jokes that, why are you guys all sleeping during class? But it's because it's not our nature in this Kali Yuga to be listening to Bhagavad Gita. It's our nature to be enjoying, to be honest. But the fact is that because we're here listening, it's hard to concentrate. Why is it that whenever we're performing material activities that we never fall asleep? Like we're eating prasadam. Have you ever seen anyone eating food and sleeping? It just doesn't happen. We just can't sleep during that time because it's a thing that we are doing. Let's say we're in Bhagavad Gita or we're listening to Srimad Bhagavatam. Something just happens and everyone just dozes off or something happens. Like it's just not in our nature. And then when we come to eating or doing anything else, but we don't have any like thing that we need to sleep, or I'm very tired, we get that energy because it's something that we're supposed to be doing. So Shravanam is very hard to concentrate for a long time by listening. And the second one is, so because our bodies are more inclined towards materialistic activities, that's why we don't sleep while eating, or like we're more prone to sleeping while listening, or like to katha. So the second one is kirtanam, which means chanting. But we do this most of the time, but Narendra Prabhu says that most of the time when we're chanting, it's namaprad, because we're either chanting while watching TV, while driving, while doing something else that we're not fully concentrating our mind on the names of Krishna. So thus, while doing, another example of chanting is kirtan. But we see that even kirtan is done sometimes with the mood that I want to show my musical skills just to other people, or I want to show my singing ability. So that again, it's namaprad when we are chanting. So then the third one is smaranam, which means remembering. But in this Kali Yuga, our minds are so weak that if we can, we don't have the mental capacity for even 15, 20 seconds just to concentrate fully on one thing. We think of, let's say, okay, Krishna, 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 or what's on TV? Like literally 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds, and our brain just can't deal with it. So the first three that we've gone to, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, it's very hard for us to do properly without doing anything wrong. And then the next three are Dasyam, which is becoming a servant, Sakyam, becoming a best friend, or Atmanivedanam, surrendering everything. But these are almost impossible if we can't do the first three. So it's even not to even do them, but just to understand what these three are. It's so hard. It's literally impossible. But then we come back to one thing that I haven't said yet. Does anyone know which one? Vandanam. So Vandanam means offering prayers. If we have a fixed schedule during the day that we need to sing these prayers, even if our mood isn't there, even if we're saying it in just, I have to say these prayers. But the fact is, when you say these prayers, we develop the mood of the composer. So thus we can't, nothing wrong will happen. So that's why Vandanam is probably the best way to not only develop the mood of Krishna consciousness, but also to understand what these verses, the people who are singing these verses, what mood they were in while they were singing. So we see Bhishma Pitama, he was on a bed of arrows while he was singing these verses. We can't even imagine being on a bed of arrows because we'll be dead. Like Bhishma Pitama, he was such an exalted devotee that even though he was on the bed of arrows, he could sing these, and we see these prayers, they're so beautiful. The melody of these prayers alone, it just attracts the heart. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, it says, it's a very good example, 12.4.33, it says, Gano yadarga prabhavo vidirate chakshuhu swarupam ravim ikshayatada yada hi anhankara apadir atmano jignasa nasyati tara anusmaret. So this is a very interesting example. So there's three things in this example. The sun, which is arka prabhavaha, the clouds, ganaha, and the human eye, which is chakshuhu. So when clouds are formed, they are formed through the power of the sun. The sun evaporates, the ocean water, the clouds are formed. But when the cloud, after being formed, when it covers the sun, does that mean that the cloud is stronger than the sun? No. It doesn't mean that the cloud is forcefully hiding the sun? No. It is the potency of the sun which decides whether or not to be concealed or revealed behind the cloud. So the human eye, we cannot understand the potency of the eye of sight without the sun. If there's no light, we cannot appreciate the power to see and what to actually say of seeing the sun. If there's no light, we can't understand the concept of sight. So if the sun, it is said that the sun creates clouds and then splits the clouds for our eyes to gain the ability to see. So if the sun is not interested, it can also thus hide behind the clouds, and then the clouds, if it doesn't want to be seen. So in this scenario, Krishna is the sun, Maya or false ego is the clouds, and the soul is the human eye. So we'll go through these 4 things we just went through. First one, Krishna, the sun, is the source of Maya Shakti, which is the clouds. Secondly, the soul, which is the human eye, cannot pierce the clouds, Maya, to see Krishna, which is the sun. Third, when Krishna out of his own mercy splits the clouds, that is when the soul can appreciate the potency of the Lord. By his own mercy, not by our sadhana or anything. By Krishna's own mercy, he splits the clouds, like by him being the sun. And the fourth one is when the Lord wants, he can hide behind Maya and he cannot be seen by any of the souls. So the question arises that what causes Krishna to pierce through the clouds of Maya to deliver us his mercy? So in Vedanta Sutra it says, Atmano Brahma Jignasa, that if we inquire about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thus then he showers us with mercy. If we try on the power of our own sadhana, we cannot see the Lord. But it is through the Lord's sweet will that we can see him. The first verse of Vedanta Sutra links up with the first verse of Bhagavatam, where it says, where the purpose of inquiry, it is said, is Satyam Param Dhimahi, which is to hold the truth in the heart. So how do we do this is said in the last verse of Bhagavatam, which also links up with the last verse of Vedanta Sutra. And the last verse of Bhagavatam, 12, 13, 33, and the first is 111. But the last verse, it says, if one chants the holy name and bows down to Krishna in the mode of obeisances, then that is considered a real meditation. So even, so now we'll go through why, after this example, why Gajendra Stuti is so important. Gajendra Stuti is the only prayers where not just the names and qualities are mentioned, but they are mentioned in the state of bowing down. We see that all the names that are mentioned of Krishna in these set of verses, they all end with Aya. Krishnaya, Govindaya, Vasudevaya. The Aya at the end means Namaha, which means paying obeisances. No other set of verses have this. So the fact is, by chanting these verses, we are doing the two things that we are doing both things that we are expected to do. Holding Krishna in the heart by chanting his names, and by which is the purpose of inquiry, which will cause Krishna's mercy to descend through the clouds. And the other thing is we attain that mood of bowing down, gaining our position, which is to serve the Lord. Because no other prayer does this. That's why Amarendra Prabhu beautifully says that by singing these Gajendra prayers, it takes 7 minutes, 28 verses. By singing these prayers every day, one after a period of time develops the mood of obeisances, which is very important because we've forgotten. We think that we're not the servant, we're the owner, not the servant. And just thus by singing these verses, we attain that mood of service. So out of all the prayers, it is said that Gajendra has the names of Krishna and the mode of bowing down, which removes the cloud of material nature, and thus Krishna reveals himself to us. So it is said that even if we don't have the right mood, Gajendra's prayers, they develop that mood of obeisances, and thus it opens that cloud for our human eye to see the sun, which is Krishna. And thus that can only be done by Krishna's mercy. And to attain Krishna's mercy is we inquire about Krishna. And that can only be done by singing his prayers. So I'll finish there. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Tagore Brahmanande.